Hello, my name is Theodore Marcus, and I am with the Federal Communications Commission's Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau. I'm happy to share information with you today about the Missing and Endangered Persons Emergency Alerting System, or EAS, event code, Notice of Proposed Rulemaking, which is going on now. I know how important this matter is to the tribal communities, so I'll dive right in. This Notice of Proposed Rulemaking was approved on March 14th, 2024. It was on unanimous vote of all 5 commissioners. It proposes to revise Part 11 of the Commission's rules regarding the Emergency Alert System by adding a new MEP event code for delivery of critical messages to the public over television and radio about missing and endangered adult persons. Let's step back a bit. What is the EAS, you might ask? Well, Part 11 of the Commission's rules governs the FCC's administration of the nation's emergency alert system. The EAS provides the President with the capability to provide immediate communications and information to the general public at the national, state, and local area levels during periods of national emergency. Also, the EAS may be used to provide the heads of state and local governments or their designated representatives with a means of emergency communications with the public in their state or local area. The EAS and its wireless counterpart, the Wireless Emergency Alerts System, or WEA, are used to distribute tens of thousands of warnings to the public every year, providing critical notice of emergencies ranging from severe weather events such as tornadoes and hurricanes, to natural disasters, to civil emergencies such as Amber Alerts and law enforcement warnings. These emergency alerts provide critical information and empower affected communities to take appropriate action and aid public safety officials in their efforts to address emergencies. Now, here's a challenge that this NPRM is directly trying to address: missing and endangered adults. National crime information data show that in the United States in 2022, approximately 187,000 adults who fell outside of the criteria for either Amber Alerts or Silver Alerts went missing. Amber Alerts cover persons up to age 17. Silver Alerts generally cover persons over the age of 65. Now, we'll discuss these in more detail later, but one thing to bear in mind is that the proposed MEP EAS event code will deal with all missing and endangered persons as described in the NPRM above the age of 17. Let's chat a bit about the EAS's architecture. The EAS is a national public warning system through which TV and radio broadcasters, cable systems, and other service providers, whom we call EAS participants, deliver alerts to the public. Although the EAS's primary purpose is to furnish the President with a system to alert the public during national emergencies, its far more common usage is to distribute alerts issued by state and local governments, as well as by the National Weather Service, to the public. While EAS participants are required to broadcast presidential alerts and certain test alerts designed to ensure the EAS is functioning properly, they participate in broadcasting state and local EAS alerts voluntarily. The Commission, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, and the NWS implement the EAS at the federal level. EAS alerts are configured using the EAS protocol. This utilizes fixed codes to identify the various elements of an EAS alert so that each alert can deliver accurate, secure, and geographically targeted alerts to the public. The EAS protocol utilizes a 3-character event code to describe the nature of the alert. For example, CAE signifies a child abduction emergency, otherwise known as an Amber Alert. The EAS distributes messages in one of 2 ways. The first method is through a broadcast-based hierarchical alert message distribution system in which an alert message originator, for example, the state governor's offices, state and county emergency management authorities, public safety answering points, state and county fire departments, etc., at the local, state, or national level encodes or arranges to have encoded a message in the EAS protocol. The alert is then broadcast from one or more EAS participants and subsequently relayed from one station to another until all affected EAS participants have received the alert and delivered it to the public. The second method of distribution is an IP-based process. Specifically, since June of 2012, authorized emergency alert authorities have been able to distribute EAS alerts over the internet to EAS participants, who in turn deliver the alert to the public, by formatting those alerts in the Common Alerting Protocol, CAP, and delivering those alerts through the FEMA-administered Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, which we call IPAWS. And this process for distributing alerts to EAS participants represents the CAP-based EAS. Both the legacy and CAP-based EAS architectures are designed so that EAS participants deliver to the public the alert content they receive from the EAS sources they monitor. Further, the EAS architecture and equipment is designed to operate automatically without any intervention from the EAS participant, both to minimize the risk of operator error, but also to facilitate EAS operation at unattended stations. Now I'd like to turn to some of the core drivers behind the Commission's proposed NPRM for an MEP EAS event code, starting with the Ashanti Alert Act and Savannah's Act. The Ashanti Alert Act was enacted in 2018. It was named in honor of Ashanti Billy, a 19-year-old woman who was abducted in Virginia and killed in North Carolina in 2017. The Ashanti Alert Act required a national coordinator with the Department of Justice to establish a national communications network to provide assistance to regional and local search efforts for missing adults through the initiation, facilitation, and promotion of local elements of the network, in coordination with states, Indian tribes, units of local government, law enforcement agencies, and other concerned entities with expertise in providing services to adults. Ashanti alerts are intended to aid in the search and recovery of missing persons over the age of 17 who fall outside the scope of Amber Alerts and Silver Alerts. The Ashanti Alert Act required the DOJ to designate a National Ashanti Alert Coordinator, which is the Bureau of Justice Assistance, BJA, to, among other things, work with states and Indian tribes to encourage the development of additional Ashanti Alert plans in their network and establish voluntary guidelines for states and Indian tribes to use in developing Ashanti Alert plans that will promote compatible and integrated Ashanti Alert plans throughout the United States. The BJA also must coordinate and consult with the Federal Communications Commission and other federal agencies in carrying out activities under the Act, and also must consult with local broadcasters and state, tribal, and local law enforcement agencies in establishing minimum standards for issuance and dissemination of Ashanti alerts, and in carrying out other activities under the Act. Finally, although Ashanti alerts can provide for rapid dissemination of information to law enforcement agencies, media, and the public about adults who have been reported missing, along with suspect information, the reality today is that these alerts are currently transmitted through a patchwork of notification systems with laws that vary based on jurisdiction. This can cause significant delay in the dissemination of these alerts. Establishing the MEP event code for missing and endangered person alerts should create uniformity in the alert process to help locate missing individuals who are older than the age for which an Amber Alert may be issued, and either suffer from a documented mental or physical disability, are missing under circumstances where their physical safety may be endangered, or where their disappearance may not have been voluntary, including abduction or kidnapping. The alerts should be limited to the geographic area that the missing person could reasonably reach and should include, to the extent possible, the circumstances of the missing person's disappearance, their physical and mental condition, and the modes of transportation available to them. There is reason to believe that the MEP event code can contribute to the kinds of recovery results seen in the amber context, which is discussed in the NPRM. Now let's turn to Savannah's Act. Another driver behind this NPRM is Savannah's Act, which was named after Savannah LaFontaine Graywed, a pregnant member of the Spirit Lake tribe who was found brutally murdered in the Red River of North Dakota in 2017. The act sought to clarify federal, state, tribal, and local law enforcement responsibilities with respect to the collecting and sharing of data related to missing or murdered Indian men, women, and children, regardless of where they reside, and directs U.S. attorneys to develop regionally appropriate guidelines for responding to missing or murdered Indians. The act further calls for establishing guidance for best practices in conducting searches for missing persons on and off Indian land. Savannah's Act was signed into law along with the Not Invisible Act on October 10, 2020. Both acts specifically called attention to the need for law enforcement coordination in addressing violent crimes against American Indians and Alaska Natives. The Not One More findings and recommendations of the Not Invisible Act Commission, which was released on November 1st, 2023, emphasized the difficulty in gathering data on missing and endangered Indigenous persons and stressed the need for adopting practices that assist federal, state, territorial, and tribal authorities in coordinating and collaborating on the reporting and response to missing persons cases. In addition to those sources, the NPRM also cites a resolution adopted by the National Congress of American Indians. In late 2023, Native Public Media sponsored a resolution calling for the Commission to establish an MEP event code to enable a more rapid and coordinated response to incidents involving missing Indigenous persons. The resolution noted that Native Americans face significant challenges in addressing the issue of missing and endangered adults, requiring immediate attention and action, and the current EAS event codes fail to account for these unique missing person circumstances. The NCAI further noted that their communities have historically been disproportionately affected by missing person cases, with Native Americans constituting 2.5% of all missing person cases, despite comprising only 1.2% of the U.S. population, as reported by the National Crime Information Center. This underscores the urgent need for targeted measures. The General Assembly of the NCAI adopted this resolution in November 2023. The NCAI, according to Native Public Media, envisioned using the MEP event code to broadcast timely and critical alerts across the nation using iPause. Now I want to push us toward a recap of the key dates thus far in the NPRM. This is the process that applies to this rulemaking. First, the item was adopted by unanimous vote on March 14th, 2024. It was issued or released, which are technical terms here at the FCC, the next day, March 15th, 2024. After the item was published in the Federal Register, which took place on April 18th, 2024, the comment deadline of May 20, 2024, and the reply comment deadline of June 17th, 2024 were set. Now, for easy reference and tracking, we have put together a milestone chart. This is the rulemaking process as it applies to this NPRM. You've heard about, or will hear more about this from my ONAP colleagues, but you'll see here in this milestone chart that we can only state the dates through the comment deadline. So those are the only dates that have taken place. After that, the ex parte period commences, which does not have a set date of closure other than the point at which the item is placed on the Commission's agenda for voting at an open meeting. So, watch the docket and the Commission's announcements as we proceed into the summer. Let's shift into our to-do list mode. The NPRM's proposal to revise its Part 11 EAS rules to add a new MEP event code for all EAS alerts about missing and endangered persons incidents that do not meet the criteria for an Amber Alert raises several important questions. Stakeholders are encouraged to read the entire item. review all of the questions posed, and if commenting on the item, attempt substantively to address as many of the questions as possible, whether in initial comments, reply comments, or during the ex parte comment period, in order to ensure their voices and thoughts are comprehensively considered. That said, we want to touch on some of the general and some of the more specific questions from the NPRM that we think bear some emphasis in this gathering. First, a key general area for comment is the proposed rule's 3 criteria for when the new event code could be used. 1, individuals over the age of 17. Second criteria is missing adults who have special needs or circumstances. And the third criteria would be missing adults who are endangered or who have been abducted or kidnapped. Also, we want to refer you to certain key paragraphs in the item. For example, paragraph 19, which explains that currently EAS alerts are limited to the geographic contours and service areas of broadcasters and cable service providers. It then asks, are there any geographic or service area limitations that would pose challenges to the effectiveness of missing and endangered person alerts, including Ashanti alerts, which, in accordance with the Ashanti Alert Act itself, must be delivered to geographic areas that the missing adult could reasonably reach, considering the circumstances and physical and mental condition of the missing adult, the modes of transportation available to the missing adult, and the circumstances of the disappearance. Now, staying with that same paragraph, we ask, how should the term reasonably be construed in this context, and how does such construction impact EAS participants' ability to disseminate these alerts? Also, are there differences between EAS participants, for example, small versus large cable operators, that affect the ability to target geographic areas as prescribed for the alerts? Next, I'd like to point out material in paragraph 21, which states, we are aware that several states, territories, and tribal communities have Ashanti Alert plans, Ashanti Alert Act compliant plans, missing and endangered person plans, or have legislative proposals for such plans. We observe that implementation of these plans vary. We seek comment on how many states, territories, and tribal communities, in fact, have such plans or proposals. Also, in paragraph 22, we additionally ask whether the availability of a dedicated EAS event code would promote the adoption or enhancement of Ashanti alerts or missing and endangered person alerts throughout the nation. Would a dedicated EAS event code help integrate existing plans into a coordinated national network? And would the ability of law enforcement agencies to use existing EAS distribution networks alleviate any burden associated with designing and implementing individual missing and endangered person or Ashanti alert plans? Staying in paragraph 22, we ask, would the implementation of a dedicated EAS event code encourage states and tribal communities that do not have missing and endangered person or Ashanti alert plans to adopt one? Next, let me direct your attention to paragraph 24, which states, we seek comment on whether we should consider an additional dedicated EAS event code for missing indigenous persons on and off tribal land. As we have recognized above, tribal communities have historically been disproportionately affected by missing person cases, with Native Americans constituting 2.5% of all missing person cases, despite comprising only 1.2% of the U.S. population. Would establishing a dedicated event code for missing indigenous persons aid in resolving this disparity? In addition, on that subject, we ask, would such a dedicated event code help law enforcement in locating missing indigenous persons? Alternatively, would it be more effective to use our proposed MEP code rather than using a separate dedicated event code for indigenous persons? Moving on. In addition to the questions and topics I've just discussed, I'd like to point out a few more, such as a question, whether establishing a dedicated MEP event code would aid in the development of the national communications network contemplated by the Ashanti Alert Act. We ask whether there are any particular privacy or other civil liberties concerns the Commission should consider in implementing the proposed event code. What actions states, territories, and tribal communities have taken to educate the public on missing endangered persons and the Ashanti alerts and the appropriate responses to those alerts? What effect the adoption of an MEP event code for EAS would have on WEA? What should the appropriate time frame be for implementing MEP as a dedicated EAS event code for missing endangered person alerts, including Ashanti alerts? Okay, we've talked about the substantive detail of the NPRM. Now it's time to talk about the mechanics of filing comments. Here are the basic directions for submitting public comments. First, remember, the deadlines for submitting public comments to the record is May 20th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Reply comment deadline is June 17th, 2024 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Your comments may be filed in the FCC's electronic comment filing system at https://www.fcc.gov/ecfs/filings/standard using the following docket numbers: 15-91, 15-94, 15-91 and 15-94. And you may also email the FCC at native@fcc.gov. That's native@fcc.gov. Now, to request materials in accessible formats for persons with disabilities, that would be Braille or large print, or electronic files, or audio formatted files, send an email to fcc504@fcc.gov, or call the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau, that's my bureau, at 202-418-0530 for a voice call. Okay, that's a lot of information about how the Commission goes from a thought to a rule, about what's happening with the EAS event code, NPRM, and how to file. You are ready to go, but we want you to know we're here to facilitate your engagement with the process as and when you need it. Please remember how to contact us. For further information about the NPRM, contact me, Theodore Marcus of the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau at theodore.marcus@fcc.gov, or call at 202-418-2610, or contact my colleague, Dana Bowers of the Consumer Policy Division of CGB at dana.bowers@fcc.gov, or 202-418-2809. Or you may reach out to our Office of Native Affairs and Policy, or ONAP, at, again, native@fcc.gov. That's native@fcc.gov. We all look forward to being engaged with you throughout this rulemaking, and we look forward to input from this very important community on this critical subject. Thank you very much.